Today we're going to check out my homemade hot composter. Hot composting, what's not to get excited about? It's this way. Hey everyone, how's it going and welcome back. At the moment there's loads of discussion about home composting and hot composting, so this week I thought I would show you my own homemade hot composter. I only found out about hot composters during the winter when I stumbled across a magazine article, and as soon as I read about it I thought I really want one of those. So I did a bit of YouTube research, and the more videos I watched the more I wanted one. But when I looked online they're actually quite expensive to buy, so I thought, well, it's winter and I'm stuck indoors, I'm going to have a go and see if I can make one of my own. So I bought the bits, and ultimately I thought, you know what, if it doesn't work, it's not the end of the world. I can go out and buy a commercially available one anyway. Or if it's not strong enough and it doesn't stay the course, I can get a little bit of time out of it and then I can go and buy a proper one anyway. So I've made the hot composter out of expanded polystyrene insulating sheets. The reason for that is that I find it very difficult to try and get hold of expanded polypropylene, which is the stuff that they make bumpers for cars out of, and it's what generally the commercially available hot composters are made of. But I thought this will do the same job, though it just won't quite be as robust. And speaking of robustness, you may notice that there's some fairly big scratches on this thing already. Last episode I introduced you to Tux the cat. Well, anytime the polytunnel is open, his favourite place to sleep is up on top of the hot composter where it's nice and cozy, but of course to get there he climbs all the way up the sides. Nice. Thanks Tux. The design of my hot composter is roughly the same to a hot composter that you would buy. It's basically just a big insulated box. At the bottom there's a removable base plate. It's got lots of holes drilled into it. It allows liquids to seep out and it allows a bit of ventilation from underneath. It's got a removable lid on the top so that you can access it to put more stuff in. And then on the front at the bottom it's got a little access panel. So that's for when it comes time to lift out your hopefully awesome homemade compost. I haven't opened mine yet to have a look. So by my calculations, this thing holds about 300 litres. The idea behind a hot composter is deceptively simple, and it's all to do with what it's made out of. So this is polystyrene, which means that the walls, the lid and the base are all insulated. As microorganisms and bacteria start to break down the material that you're putting in to make your compost, they release heat. But because the walls are insulated, that means that the heat stays inside, lifts the temperature of the whole compost heap, which encourages more bacterial action, which releases more heat, and the whole thing not only just starts to heat up, but actually it starts to accelerate, and it means that you can get through a lot of material really quickly. It composts down really quickly. It means one thing: nice garden compost really fast. So when I'm talking heat, I'm talking serious heat, not like 20 or 30 degrees. I'm talking like 40, 50, 60 degrees. This thing, when it gets going, runs really, really hot. So you're probably wondering why I've got a hot composter inside my polytunnel. The reason for that is that I only started it a couple of months ago in early March, and here in Ireland in early March it's generally still pretty cold. So coupled with the fact that I didn't have an awful lot of material to put into it, I didn't think it was going to have a really good chance of getting going. So I thought if I put it in here, it's going to be a little bit more sheltered from the cold and the wind. It's going to get the benefit of any little bit of heat that comes in through the polytunnel. And actually, so far, it's worked really nicely. So I've got a thermometer on the top which goes through to the compartment itself. That just gives you a really quick idea of what the ambient temperature is like inside the composter, and it gives you an idea of how well it's getting on without you having to lift the lid and let all that good heat out. So let's open the lid and have a look and see how it's getting on. This is where it's going to get a little bit shaky cam. So when this thing gets going, it's literally like a furnace. You open it up and you get hit with a wall of steam. So you can see from the compost thermometer at the moment that it's sitting at about 40 degrees. Not as high as it could be, but it's still doing really well. So there are two really big advantages of using a hot composter over a traditional outdoor compost heap. So the first one is speed. So an outdoor compost heap, it might take 18 months, 2 years before you get usable compost. With something like this, with the high temperatures it generates, you can get compost from anything between 1 to maybe 3 months, depending on how it gets on. And second, everything can go into this thing, and I mean almost everything can go into this. Because of the really high temperatures, you can put uncooked food as well as cooked food in, you can put meats, but you can also put in perennial weeds, because not only will it kill off the roots of perennial weeds, the high temperatures also kill off perennial weed seeds. So how do you feed this thing? So to get the temperatures up, it's all about getting the right mix of materials. You want to balance your kitchen waste, your soft green leafy material, which is your nitrogens, with your carbons. That's things like woody material and shredded paper. Now, to be fair, these aren't ratios that I've devised. They're ratios that I got off the website of a leading hot composter manufacturer. It's easy enough to search for it online if you're looking for it, but I found that they work really, really well. What you're trying to do with this thing is to make sure that it doesn't get all soggy and compacted, because if it does, it'll go anaerobic and then it'll go really stinky. So let's take the lid off and load this thing up. So first thing, I've got a 5-litre plastic kitchen caddy full of kitchen waste. Now, it could be anything. It could be cooked food, uncooked food, coffee grounds, tea bags, eggshells, the list goes on. Now, equally, it could be green plant material. So it could be anything like grass clippings, plant trimmings, weeds. Yeah, we've got a lot of weeds. You get the picture. But basically, what you're looking for is a volume of nitrogen-rich material. So this goes in. So then for whatever material you've just added in, you go with another 50% of shredded paper and add that in. So then finally, for the original amount of material that you put in, you put another 1/5 in of what's known as a bulking agent. Normally it's wood chip or something like that. Basically all it does is it keeps the heat aerated and it helps to soak up all of those unwanted juices. Yuck. So that gets added in as well. I'm using bark. Then all you have to do is give it a good mix and put the lid back on. So I've only had this thing going for a couple of months, but I've already learnt a couple of things, and a couple of things have surprised me about it. So the first thing is that there's actually very little smell off it. I thought that it would smell of really horrible rotten food, but presumably because the temperatures are so high, it deals with all of that kind of stuff. Generally, it just kind of smells like plant material. So the other thing is that when this thing's up to temperature and it's running at like 55, 60 degrees, it's an absolute animal. You basically can't keep up with it. You're putting more and more material in. And although I've been adding more and more, the level inside this thing just isn't going up, which I suppose is a good thing because it means that what's in there at the moment is getting broken down. So the final thing is, don't be surprised, disappointed or worried that the temperature fluctuates inside your hot composter. I find it almost impossible to keep it at about 55, 60 degrees. It'll sit at 55, 60 degrees if I put fresh plant material in it, particularly grass clippings. Grass clippings really get this thing fired up. And then over time, the temperature sort of dips again. So to give you an example, let's cut back to Tuesday. So it's Tuesday and I've come down to have a look at how the hot composter is getting on. So you can see on the little thermometer at the minute it's sitting at about 32, 33 degrees rather than sitting high at about 50 or 60 degrees. But that's no big deal. So we'll just get rid of the thermometer. And if there's one thing that gets this thing going, it's green, soft, leafy material. So that's what I'm going to add now. So that's all the green material in. Now just to add the shredded paper. And the bark chippings. And give it a really good mix up. And we'll come back in a couple of days to see how it's getting on. So that was Tuesday and now it's Friday and I'm going to have a quick look in to see how the temperature's doing. Yeah, it's doing really nicely, so it's now up to about 50 degrees. So there you have it. That was just a quick rundown of my hot composter and how I use it. I'm going to keep adding stuff over the next few weeks and months, and hopefully before long I'm going to have another video to post where I'm going to show you the results of what comes out of it, and I'm really hoping for some brilliant homemade compost. So if you enjoyed this, let me know by giving it a thumbs up and leave a comment down below. Subscribe and don't forget to hit the bell icon so that you get notified when I post my next video. And until the next time, see you later.